All right, welcome to another deep dive, everyone. Today we're going to be exploring the German legal system.
Yeah,
I know it's not the most glamorous topic,
right.
but stick with us. It's actually
Yeah.
really interesting once you get past all the, well, the legal jargon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got some great resources for this deep dive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We've got this ultimate guide to German law,
Mm-hmm.
and then some really insightful articles offering different perspectives.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to kind of synthesize all that for you.
Excellent. So the mission today is to give everyone a clear and concise overview
Right.
of how this system works, the structure, the key areas of law, and
Yeah.
how it impacts both individuals and businesses in Germany.
Yeah. Really empower the listener with
Mm.
some, actionable knowledge.
Right. So they're not overwhelmed by all the legal complexity.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting through the noise.
Okay, let's jump right in. So first things first, Germany operates under a civil law system,
Mm-hmm.
which I know is different from what many of us are used to, like in the UK or US, which have common law systems.
Yes. Big difference.
So can you break down what this means in terms of how laws are actually made and applied in Germany?
Sure. So in a civil law system like Germany's, the laws are primarily codified,
Codified.
meaning they're written down in these
Mhm.
really extensive legal codes. And this makes it distinct from common law systems, which rely heavily on,
Precedents?
yeah, judicial precedents. Exactly. Those past decisions that kind of guide future rulings.
Right, right.
In Germany, though, the focus shifts more towards interpreting and applying these written laws directly.
So less about looking back at similar cases and more about sticking to the rule book.
Precisely. And this really aims for greater predictability and uniformity in the application of the law.
Makes sense. So it's more about a consistent interpretation across the board.
Right.
Okay. Now let's say someone's in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
They have a legal issue. Where do they even start?
Well, it can seem daunting, but the German court system actually has a pretty clear structure. It's divided into 5 distinct branches.
Okay.
Yeah, each with its own specific responsibility. So first, you've got the regular courts,
Okay.
and these handle both civil disputes, like disagreements between people, and criminal cases,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting because in some systems, those are totally separate.
That is interesting. It's all under one roof in
Yeah,
Germany.
yeah, for the regular courts. Then you have the administrative courts,
Okay.
and they deal specifically with conflicts between public authorities.
Like government agencies and stuff.
Exactly, and citizens.
Yeah.
So say you have an issue with a decision made by a local council.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you'd go.
Got it. So it's for those government-related issues.
Right. And then, of course, we have the tax courts.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's favorite.
Uh-huh, right. They deal with all those lovely tax disagreements.
I'll try to avoid those.
I think we all do. Okay, then there's the labor courts, and these are all about workplace and employment issues.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is that a huge percentage of labor disputes in Germany are actually settled outside of court.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like 90% according to the German Labor Ministry.
Wow. 90%. That's incredible.
Yeah, they really emphasize finding amicable solutions through mediation.
So it's less adversarial, more about finding common ground.
Exactly. And then last but not least, you have the social courts.
Okay.
And they handle disputes related to social benefits and social security matters.
Like if there's an issue with your unemployment benefits or something like that.
Precisely.
Okay. So we've got the regular, the administrative, tax, labor, and social courts. That's a good breakdown.
Each with their own little niche.
Now let's dive into some specific areas of German law. We've heard that German criminal law is known for being pretty strict.
Yes, that's definitely true.
How does that actually play out? Like, what are the consequences for breaking the law in Germany?
Well, offenses are categorized into misdemeanors, which are less serious, and felonies,
Right.
which obviously carry heavier penalties. And a good example is theft and fraud. The punishment tends to be proportional to the value involved.
So stealing a candy bar versus a car, big difference.
Exactly. And the thing is, German law really sticks to the written statute.
Okay.
Like, there's less room for leniency or interpretation based on circumstances compared to some other legal systems.
Got it. So it's more about a strict application of the law as it's written.
Right. Now, moving into the digital age, cybercrime is a big issue everywhere, and Germany takes this very seriously as well.
Mm-hmm.
Things like unlawful access to data, hacking, those can lead to serious fines and even jail time.
Wow.
And then there are the drug laws, which are also very strict, with pretty harsh penalties, especially for trafficking.
So definitely areas to tread carefully.
Definitely. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about civil law, which is governed by the German Civil Code.
The BGB.
Yes, the BGB. It primarily deals with private law, so legal relationships and disputes between individuals. One key area within that is contract law, and this is where you see a strong emphasis on fairness and consumer protection.
Interesting.
Yeah, so when you enter into a contract in Germany, there are a lot of protections in place for you as a consumer.
That's good to know.
Right. And family law is another big part of civil law.
Makes sense.
Yeah, covering things like marriage, divorce, child custody, inheritance.
Big life events.
Exactly. And then you have property law, which deals with things like ownership, rental agreements, and tenant rights.
Oh, yeah. Tenant rights are a big deal in Germany. But
Huge. I mean, over 54% of Germans live in rented accommodation.
wow, that's majority.
Yeah, so those tenant protection laws have a broad impact.
Okay, so contract law, family law, property law, all big parts of the BGB.
Oh, and connected, yeah.
Now let's talk about something relevant for anyone thinking of starting a business in Germany.
Okay.
What are the essentials of corporate and business law they need to know?
Well, first off, understanding the different legal forms for businesses is crucial. The GmbH, which stands for Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung, is a common one, kind of like a limited liability company.
Okay.
And then you have the AG Aktiengesellschaft, which is more like a stock corporation.
Okay.
So knowing the differences between those is important. And employment law is another area to pay attention to.
Right.
Germany has very strong labor laws focusing on worker safety, fair wages, all of that.
Very employee-centric.
Absolutely. And of course, there's a taxation system, which is, well, let's just say it's comprehensive.
Complex.
Haha, you could say that. Corporate tax, VAT, income tax.
A lot to keep track of.
Definitely. So yeah, really important to get a grasp on all that if you're thinking of doing business in Germany.
Yeah, good advice. Now, what about people from outside Germany who might want to live and work there?
Right. So for those folks, understanding the immigration and residency laws is absolutely essential. There are different residence permits depending on your purpose for being there, whether it's work, study, starting a business.
So specific permits for specific purposes.
Exactly. And if you're a skilled worker from outside the EU, you'll likely need a work visa.
Okay.
And there are also pathways to permanent residency and even citizenship if you stay in Germany long enough.
So it's definitely possible to build a life there, but you need to navigate the rules carefully.
For sure. Now, dealing with any legal system can be a challenge.
Right.
And our sources actually highlight some common issues people run into when dealing with German law.
Like what?
Well, the bureaucracy can be pretty complex.
Bureaucracy, the universal headache.
Pretty much. And the labor laws, while good for workers, can be pretty demanding for businesses to keep up with.
Makes sense.
And then there are the taxes, which, as we mentioned, can be a bit of a maze.
Right, and we also saw that housing and rental issues are common, especially with so many people renting.
Yeah, and then there are things like corporate compliance issues, complexities with migration and visa applications. It can get tricky.
It sounds like a lot to juggle. So what advice do our sources give for navigating all of this?
Well, the key takeaway is to be proactive and informed. Okay, staying updated on legal changes is huge because things can shift. And for anything complex, definitely consult with a lawyer who specializes in German law.
Right, don't try to DIY everything.
Exactly. And always, always carefully review any contracts before you sign anything.
Sound advice.
Yeah. Compliance with tax and employment laws is obviously crucial, and mediation is often a good route for resolving disputes.
Less stressful than going to court, I imagine.
Usually, yeah. And some other practical tips: securely store your legal documents digitally, be mindful of intellectual property rights,
Right.
understand real estate laws, know your rights as a consumer, keep up with immigration rules if you're foreign, and consider things like legal networking and alternative dispute resolution.
It's a lot to remember.
It is, but being aware of these things can save you a lot of trouble down the road.
Definitely worth the effort. Now, for anyone who wants to dig deeper into this, what are some of the key resources or expert voices our sources mentioned?
Well, for starters, the German Bar Association, that's the DAV, and the Federal Bar Association, the BR-AG, are excellent official sources, and they regulate lawyers in Germany, so they're definitely reliable.
Okay, good to know.
And then there are online legal platforms like LTO, Legal Tribune Online, which provide a lot of insightful discussions.
Okay.
And it's interesting to note that there are over 160,000 licensed lawyers in Germany.
Wow. that's a lot.
Yeah, so there's no shortage of expertise. And we also came across some interesting perspectives from legal scholars and
Oh,
practitioners.
yeah.
Yeah, like Dr. Klaus Meyer emphasizes the importance of codified law and how court decisions help interpret it.
So understanding both the written law and how it's been applied.
Precisely. And Sabine Keller, who works more on the practical side, stresses the need for accuracy and compliance,
Mm.
particularly for businesses and individuals working within this system.
So different perspectives, but all highlighting the importance of understanding the German legal framework.
Right.
Now, our sources also mentioned a case study involving a company that got in trouble with GDPR.
Oh, yeah, Company X.
What happened there?
Well, they ended up with a €2 million penalty for a GDPR violation.
Ouch. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, it was a pretty big deal. And it really highlights how crucial it is to be on top of data protection laws in Germany.
Absolutely. Compliance is not something to take lightly.
Definitely not. I mean, beyond the financial penalty, there was also significant damage to their reputation.
Right, so it's not just about the money. It's about maintaining trust and credibility.
Absolutely.
Now, finally, our sources also mentioned LetzStudy and how they've helped people navigate the German legal system.
Yes, particularly for things like studying and internships.
Yeah?
They shared some great success stories.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like Shanda Kumar, who's an Indian law student, he was able to pursue an LL.M in Germany with LetzStudy's help.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, they helped him with the university admissions, the language requirements, the visa process.
That's a lot of hurdles.
It is. And then there's Rajat, who also transitioned into a German law degree program.
Mm-hmm.
And LetzStudy helped him with the academic prerequisites, the language learning, all that.
So really guiding him through the whole process.
Exactly. And then there's Yasha's SK, who secured a legal internship in Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, LetzStudy helped him with his applications, networking, and understanding the work visa rules.
So providing very practical support tailored to his specific goals.
Yeah, they really helped him navigate the complexities of working in a foreign legal system.
That's fantastic. It sounds like a great resource for anyone looking to study or work in law in Germany.
Absolutely. So to wrap up, what are the big takeaways from our deep dive into the German legal system?
Well, I think the key thing is that it's a well-structured civil law system that puts a huge emphasis on written law.
Right, those codified statutes are really at the core of it all.
And it has a very organized court system with those 5 distinct branches, each handling a specific area of law.
Yeah, and we talked about those key areas: criminal, civil, corporate, immigration. And the common thread is that being aware of the rules and complying with them is absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. And I think the aha moment for me is that while it can seem complex, it's actually designed to be fair and predictable.
Yes, definitely. It's all about understanding the framework and knowing where to turn for help when you need it.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to seek expert advice.
Right. And with that, here's a final thought for our listeners. Germany's legal system is all about codified law and compliance. How does that compare to the systems you're more familiar with? What are the pros and cons of each approach? Something to think about.
Great question. Lots to ponder there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the German legal system, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.